2, go.
I should have my hand around Alan, because if it was a girl, I would do it anyway. So anyway, this is Alan. I met him about a month ago, right?
Yeah.
A month ago.
Right.
And since I've known Alan about a month, he now gets classes here. He's almost like my point man. Any question, I'll have to go to him for an in-depth, detailed report of what's what. Anyway, today we're talking about sweeteners. We use dates for the most part in our green smoothie. I feel most comfortable with dates. Then Alan was talking about aspartame. What?
Aspartame. Yeah.
Aspartame. I think there's a whole detailed report on it. I said, wow. And I said, you know what? On that note, we're going to talk about aspartame, how people use it, and what harm does it do. No. What can I say?
Well,
you're the judge. You're the
right. I view aspartame as a choice. Aspartame is an artificial sweetener, and I just look at it as being a choice whether to use aspartame or not to use aspartame based on what kind of homework you've done on what aspartame actually is. The manufacturer process of aspartame is certainly something that you can look up and be interested in, and where the resources that I get my information from is from documentaries like Sweet Misery and Sweet Remedy, and from lectures by Dr. Russell Blaylock, a noted neurosurgeon who has written the book Excitotoxins, and I don't know whether he coined the phrase excitotoxins, but he certainly has used it quite frequently. So what aspartame, the chemical compound actually is made of, it's made of 3 fractions, one of which is 10% of aspartame, is methyl ester. A second fraction, which is 40% by weight of aspartame, is aspartic acid. And then there's a third fraction, and I don't really need to talk about that. The first fraction that I talked about, which is methyl ester, is metabolized upon entering the body, and it becomes methanol. Methanol is, you might understand, is wood alcohol, and the body has no idea what to do with it. In fact, it's a poison, and wood alcohol is responsible for such symptoms as blindness and a few other things. So the body doesn't know what to do metabolically with methanol, so what it actually does is it metabolizes it into formaldehyde, of all things. And then it stores formaldehyde away in fatty tissue, and it's not excreted. So over the course of ingesting more and more aspartame, one is actually building up a storehouse of formaldehyde in the body.
That means when he dies, he doesn't need formaldehyde.
Right. So basically, what's happening is one is slowly embalming oneself.
Right.
The second fraction, and the one that is more topical, the one that Russell Blaylock talks about, is aspartic acid, which is an excitotoxin. It's basically what gives aspartame its "this really tastes good" connection, because aspartic acid goes into the pleasure center of your brain and stimulates you to say, not that what I've eaten will give me nutrition, because that's something that it may or may not do, but what I just ate tastes fantastic, regardless of what it is. It could be a square of cardboard, but if it's coated with this, you will put it on your tongue, have aspartic acid ingested. It will go to the pleasure center of your brain, and you will love that cardboard. You will love whatever object it's put on.
Great for cardboard business.
So the issue with aspartic acid, that would be okay if there wasn't a side effect. The issue with aspartic acid is if you ingest too much, it basically will excite the pleasure center of your brain. It will excite the specific neurons in the pleasure center of your brain to a certain level of excitation, and they will die, which is why Russell Blaylock coined the phrase excitotoxin, because after a while, certain portions of your brain actually die. In the in the documentary Sweet Misery,
Wait a second, doesn't brain cells normally die?
brain cells normally die, but this is
At a greater rate?
This is at a greater rate than they
What the
can.
greater rate looks like?
Well, a
100 times?
greater rate looks like symptomologically, it looks like brain dysfunction. And brain dysfunction, the young
Memory
lady,
loss.
the young lady who made Sweet Misery was diagnosed with MS. And she was able to trace it back to ingestion of what she believes was a causal connection between aspartame and her MS diagnosis. That is not to say it was the cause, but she believes it was. And she went on a crusade across the United States interviewing a lot of people saying, hey, have you seen something similar? Not to draw a causal connection, but to say, what do we think here? What is a gross thought
Actually,
about?
and Become Younger, page 26, fourth paragraph, talks about that. Acetic acid and alcohol is part of the byproduct of sugar, which does cause MS.
Well, so there's two things that we're talking about. We're talking about ingesting methanol, which is poisonous, what the body does with it, and then there's a symptomology to do with ingesting methyl ester, which changes to methanol. There's a separate symptomology to ingesting aspartic acid, which has it's basically a sites at pleasure center, and so there's two different things going on here. I would just say here's something to be conscious of. It's not something to say anything about beyond just raising the consciousness level about what this is. And I would again point to documentary sources, Dr. Russell Blaylock.
Did they write you, by the way?
What?
Did they write you?
You mean email me?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Why don't you give me your email address and then...
My email address is RITTER8 and I'm also on Facebook.
Actually, we're going to talk about aspartame. You answer questions about aspartame and water, which we didn't get to, by the way.
Yes, sure.
Okay, good. Okay, that's it. This is Alan Ritter and myself. I was really impressed by what he knows. Actually, he's going to be one of our guest lecturers at the festival, too. And actually speaking in our next month's potluck. And he's speaking in Lancaster. And he's become well known throughout the country, if that's our goal. Okay, bye.
Bye.